Arsenal's system has changed again this season with multiple tweaks by Mikel Arteta in order to get the best out of the squad. Now in this video we're going to look at the changes that have been made and how Arsenal build up and press teams and just why it is working so well with the personnel that they have in the side. So let's get into it. Now, it's no secret that Arsenal have been playing fantastic at the moment and are on really good form going into the game against Crystal Palace. Now, in the Premier League, over the last couple of games, Arsenal have been playing with this starting 11, which sees Trossard come into the side and Calafiori play in left back, while usually having Eze occupy that right central mid spot, which usually would be where Odegaard is. Now, this is a very different dynamic to what Arsenal have used in the past with maybe a Havertz or an Odegaard. In terms of build-up, Odegaard would have been the guy that had the most touches for Arsenal, picking the ball up in deeper or outside the blocked positions and usually dictating the attack, kind of deciding where to go and being a big magnet to the ball on this right side. Now, Eze is not that player. He is someone that sits in between the lines. He doesn't really get the ball too much and ultimately moves off other people's movements. Seeing Woklz run in behind consistently is giving Eze this space to run in and get shots or get the ball, where he is from zone 14 being very dominant, just outside the box, being able to get good effects in. Now, this kind of shows that Odegaard is an all-phase creator and Eze is more of a final third guy, not someone that wants to pick the ball up entirely a lot deeper. Now, in order for this to work, Arsenal have been instead tweaking their system a little bit. Now, it's no secret that Arsenal have been kind of playing on this 2-2-2 system with 4 lines into the team. This means there's a line for the defensive line, the deeper midfield, the attacking midfield, and the forward line as well. And this allows Arsenal to get a lot of flexibility in all these positions. Now, what I mean by that is that any single moment, a player on this team is allowed to move onto that other line if they think it is worthy of them doing it. Now, a lot of the players can only go one maybe line away from them, like Woklz is not going to come to the midfield defensive line. He might come to the midfield centre to hold the ball off and pass it off to someone else, but that's not going to be something he does all the time. And you might see some of the wingers like Martinelli stay out wide a lot more on that forward line, while Trossard is someone that might often come inside and play alongside Woklz in a 2 or play in that midfield line next to Eze, which you see quite a lot. Now, the people that have the most freedom in these positions, however, is the midfield for Arsenal and the fullbacks. Arsenal always have 1 or 2 people on every line, and you're often going to see Gabriel and Saliba sit at the deep one, Woklz, Martinelli or Trossard sit in the top one, and then other players always rotate. Now, Eze usually sits in this sort of attacking forward line and doesn't really move from it, but there is a few times that he will come deeper if he has to, if someone moves into that position. Now, this is where the 2 big players in midfield come important, and that is Zubimendi and Rice. Now, Rice and Zubimendi are very good at working on any single line, probably other than the forward line right now for the team, and helping Arsenal in build up in these situations. This is why you see Zubimendi come back into a centre-back role sometimes and act as one of them, trying to find that open pass from the first time. And there's also times where Zubimendi will be into this attacking third channel, playing as a creative player, pushing people away and kind of playing in that Odegaard role, being very far up the pitch on the right half space or even in the centre. Now, this is where Zubimendi and Rice have to work off each other, and if 2 of them are both in this attacking line, someone has to cover for them, so they're just simply not going to do it. Now, what this does in defensive areas when Arsenal are trying to build up is give them more ideas. When Gabriel has the ball, maybe with Saliba, and Rice comes deeper outside the channel to receive it, he's also got someone like Zubimendi not only pushing back deeper, which confuses the marker if he needs to go towards him or not, but it also gives a different ability for the space in behind. It makes the gaps bigger because Zubimendi and Rice have pushed closer to the defense and the attacking line has stayed where they are. Now, this is where the freedom players in the team have to find solutions, usually being the fullbacks. And obviously, it's a common conception that Calafiori for Arsenal has been the main guy in this team to find these gaps and find that space, which he does quite a lot. Now, Calafiori has a free role in any way. His job is to find space and pull players away from the defenders so they have time on the ball, mostly being Rice from deeper or Gabriel to make them passes. Now, Calafiori has come up in some funky positions because of how this works. Sometimes he's come onto the right side of the pitch, even though he's a left back, and being as a striker running through as well. But when he sees that space there and sees that he's not being picked up, he will make that run. And if he is being picked up, that means someone like Gabriel will get the space instead, deeper or Rice to play that pass. And the big thing that this is kind of doing for Arsenal right now is that the defenders are impacting how much intensity Arsenal are provided in that minute. Let's say Arsenal are losing to Newcastle, you will most likely see the fullbacks even push out wide or come into the centre to make that happen. There's a moment where Timber actually comes into this inside area and B's in that front forward line, and Calafiori finds that space out wide, kind of in between the two lines you could say, but he is broadly on one of the lines of the midfield trying to find that space there. This is when Arsenal need a goal, but when they don't need a goal, you're most likely going to see a lot of the players play a lot further back, with like Zubimendi and Rice holding their positions a lot more, but also Calafiori and Timber not being as experimental going forward, which happens a lot. But it's not just Calafiori who's finding these spaces. We see it a lot with Timber. Timber makes these sort of half-channel late runs into the area, which we actually see a lot of top European teams do. And this is because when you sit deeper in a free, teams do not expect you to be pushing into that channel to find them areas. This is why Timber has received the ball a lot in this right half space, and he's had good passes and good work there to create, because he's becoming that extra man just outside the box to help the team. And it's all about doing this late so it catches teams off guard when you're building up, and then you can run into that space, which they can both do really well. And one of the big reasons why this has been working for Arsenal in the league especially is because Trossard has been excellent in his positional discipline. Now, Trossard is a player that on the team sheet isn't the most exciting player in the world, and probably a little bit confusing when he first got the nod over Eze in that left wing position. But it is because Trossard not only can receive the ball deeper, bring the ball down, he's a lot calmer than some of other players on it from these areas, but he's also a player that can actually operate as a striker. He can run in behind, he can work with Woklz, and he can provide crosses as well out wide if he needs to. So him coming inside and working along Woklz will give Calafiori that space out wide, which is needed a lot more than someone like Martinelli, who might be forced to play a bit wider because of his pace, although we can argue that's not necessarily his best role. Some other adaptations that might happen with Arsenal over the next coming weeks is you might see also Hincapié come into the left-back role. Now, there's been injuries to Gabriel and certain things going on in their defence, but with this space that can be given out wide when played quick enough in the block, it is going to be vital Hincapié can find that role and be an overlapping player, which Calafiori does do when Arsenal need to really put their throttle on the gas and he goes into that forward line, but he's not always going to do it, and him and his free role is mostly used to create chaos, which sometimes isn't always the most helpful thing, but it usually is. Another quite interesting part about the last couple of games for Arsenal that I do want to talk about is the pressing and how Arsenal are defended off the ball. Now, obviously, we all know with Odegaard and Havertz in the team, they are players that push the defence. They have pressed a little bit less over the last couple of years than they did a few years ago, but it's still very good. They wait for their moments, they pick it really well, and usually we see Odegaard do his shepherding of the ball to put it into the right side, where usually Timber pushes up, Rice pushes up as well, or Zubimendi, and Saka gets the tackle in, which we win the ball a lot from this right hand side. Now, Arsenal have actually started the season pressing a lot more. In the first couple of games when Odegaard was playing, they were very intent on winning the ball back and being aggressive with it. We had Woklz next to Odegaard. Woklz had to kind of be that first initial thing, and then everyone would work off him, but we haven't really seen that since Odegaard has come out of the team. Now, the reason why is because obviously Eze has come in, he's not really brilliant in the press, he is more of a luxury player, which we knew when we bought him in. He is that creative force we needed in the final third. Now, Arsenal generally as a team from this, I think not only with Odegaard being injured and Havertz, I think there's injury concerns as well that kind of stop them doing this. They have decided to sit off a lot more in a mid block or low block even at times. Now, a lot of the times they actually invite crosses into the box from out wide because they know they're so dominant in the air and can win the ball. And what this sees is them kind of flood these middle areas and keep everyone tight and compact, which is something we know Arsenal can do, but they've been doing it a lot more off the ball all the time. Now, what this is doing is forcing the other team against Arsenal to push a lot more up. A lot of their players will be on the halfway line or maybe just behind it in a line, and not only does it make them want to commit more players going forward, which Arsenal keep doing, it gives Arsenal the space in behind, which is much better for their players that they have brought into this side, being Eze and Woklz. This means Woklz can now run into this space in behind and get through in a more direct approach, and he's not the only one benefiting. Arsenal are just playing more direct, there's more long balls, there's more quick passing, a lot of their passes are progressive, one of the most progressive work in the league, and this is because every time they get the ball, that space is there and they're trying to exploit it on the break, which sees them have a lot more of these opportunities. But it's not only that, when Arsenal have the ball as well in build-up, they are getting so comfortable at waiting and waiting and waiting for teams to push them in the defence. They are waiting for players to get frustrated in the other team and kind of push up slowly as a team, maybe creating more gaps in the midfield from the defence when Woklz is pushing them back as well, but more importantly, creating gaps in midfield where we can exploit, which we've seen people like Miles in the Champions League at Atletico. When they push up, they create that space there. He takes it and runs into it. And then we have a one-on-one, and Martinelli has all the space in the world to finish first time brilliantly into the goal. And that is created by baiting the players towards them in the defensive line and then exploiting the space which has been created from them gaps from the first line, pushing up a lot more than the second or third. Now, that is not necessarily different to what Arsenal have been doing over the last couple of years, that little bit of part of it, but Arsenal being much more patient, and we keep hearing Arteta talk about patience against certain opponents, and there's certain times they're being patient off the ball, waiting or on the ball to then exploit it, and there's certain times where they've just got their foot on the gas and they're not caring and they're trying to create chances all the time. And I do think there's a certain aspect of injuries where they don't want players to run too much anymore. Putting them back is a lot more easy because Arsenal do work really hard off the ball. There's a certain level of Odegaard and Havertz just not being in the team. They're the best pressers and Arsenal don't have that. But there's also a certain level of Arsenal playing Eze and not only wanting that more direct approach, but trying to play in a way where you rely on some of the attacking work. You rely on players to get into the box and break quickly into these areas, which we see Liverpool do a lot in their time, and also become a team that is just becoming much more multifaceted, can do these different sides of the games which they need to help the team in the long front. And we've been seeing it. Teams are really struggling to get in a mid-block all the time against Arsenal. Saka is getting so much more space, and he's been fantastic the last couple of weeks in a 1v1, even in a 1v2 if he gets there, he's great as well recently, but he's been getting a lot more freedom, and this has been creating a lot more for the team. And over the last 4 games, Arsenal have created over 1 XG over in all of these games, so we've not been bad. The creativity is there. We're just not being efficient in front of goal, which is the next part of the process which they need to do. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when Odegaard comes in, but ultimately I think that is where the system is aligned to right now. Now, before we end this video, I want to say that I've just started a new channel where we're playing Football Manager. If any of you like that game, called Woklz FM, please go and check that out if you want to see any more content like that. And thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it as always, and I will see you in the next one.